Hi, I'm Lori Duncan, the Crop Sustainability Specialist with the University of Tennessee Extension. In today's Cotton Focus presentation, we'll be talking about the U.S. Cotton Trust Protocol. I'm going to give a little bit of an intro, and then we'll talk with a cotton grower in Tennessee who's participating in the program on his experiences so far with the program. The U.S. Cotton Trust Protocol is a voluntary farm-level program designed to engage growers in continuous improvement. Over the last 35 years, we've made a tremendous amount of progress in land use, soil loss, water use, energy use, and greenhouse gas emissions. This tool will allow us to continue with this progress over the next 35 years. It's also a program that will help the industry reach its 2025 goals. So the U.S. cotton industry did set some goals for ourselves for the year 2025. This will be able to allow us to document the things we're doing and actually be able to capture the data a little bit better so we can document these goals being met. It's also a system that will provide aggregate data that can be passed through the supply chain. As we're all aware, consumers are starting to demand more sustainably produced products. A lot of brands and retailers now have corporate social responsibility reports. And actually, that number has increased substantially over the last decade. This year, I think we're up to 95% of the S&P 500 companies that have some level of sustainability reporting, and most of them are very data-driven. There are many brands and retailers that have already committed to only sourcing 100% sustainable cotton. That cotton will have to come from a cotton program to be able to verify that it was produced sustainably. The protocol is not about putting one grower against another or saying one bale of cotton is more sustainable than another. It's also not about guaranteeing a premium. The protocol is about market access for U.S. cotton. We cannot afford to lose market access because of a perceived lack of sustainability. We know that in the US, our cotton is produced better and more sustainably than anywhere in the world. And this allows us to document that. So to enroll in the US Cotton Trust Protocol, there's several steps. There is a self-assessment questionnaire. There's a data tool that allows you to assess your field and your farming practices, and a verification step. For the self-assessment questionnaire, there's around 100 questions in these different topic areas that you see on the screen. The answers range from, I do this now, I'm implementing on one or more of my fields, I'll consider in the next 3 years, or not appropriate. And there's several regulatory questions that you just say, I do meet and or I do not meet. The next step is a field assessment for 10% of your acreage, your cotton acreage. So there is a tool on here that you go and draw out your field boundary, and you enter in field records for that year that you'll be participating in the protocol. There's also qualified data management partners that will be able to pull in some of your field and production data from those softwares if you're already utilizing those. For the verification step, there is a second party verification just to make sure that all the questionnaire was answered correctly and the data tool was used appropriately. And then 5 to 10% of producers will have an independent third-party verification of their questionnaire and their data. And this will be limited, it won't take more than a day, and can be done, I think, remotely. So now we'll go and talk with one of our Tennessee cotton growers. Today I have Mr. John Lindemood, a cotton grower and ginner from Lake County, Tennessee, with us today to talk about the U.S. Cotton Trust Protocol. Instead of just hearing me, tell you guys about it, let's hear from a cotton grower in our state that has actually gone through the process and is participating. So welcome, John. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
So can you give a little bit of background about your operation to start off with?
Sure. We're farming Northwest Tennessee, right on the banks of the Mississippi River. We farm about 5,000 acres, with roughly half of that in cotton. with the other half in corn, wheat, and beans. We also run a cotton gin, and we've been practicing sustainable agriculture for the last over 30 years. And when I came back to the farm in, I guess it was 84, Dad had already started no-till practices, and from that point, it's evolved. We'll get into that later, but just like all the other producers watching this, we have been sustainable, and this is all about documenting that and making sure the world knows how sustainable we are.
Yeah, that's great. That's a fantastic point. So I've already covered a little bit about what the U.S. Cotton Trust Protocol is and its mission. So what is your perception of, the protocol's approach to elevating U.S. cotton?
Well, I'm very much in favor of the U.S. Trust Protocol, Cotton Trust Protocol. It's a homegrown version of the BCI initiatives, which are based in Switzerland and London. But with third-party verification. But at least we know that this verification is a neutral party with no agendas. There's a sense, right or wrong, that other BCI and other sustainable protocols might not be neutral in their verification processes. They come into it with an agenda. The U.S. Cotton Trust Protocol, the U.S. farmer can rely on the training and the expertise of the second and third party verification that they're going to be a neutral party to evaluate what our claims.
Yeah, that's a great point. So, we hear a lot about market access. So we know that consumers are wanting more sustainable products, and brands and retailers are having to meet that demand. So, how, as a grower and a ginner, how do you feel about what's being asked of us for data and basically all the information to tell our story?
Well, first to the need of it. I've had the privilege of traveling with Cotton Council International in India, China, Bangladesh, and always sustainability comes up, more so in recent years than 10 years ago. And it's not just a buzzword, it's a requirement that brands are instituting, that they want not only the producers to tell them that they're sustainable, but they want them to verify it. And I think for that reason, it's essential that we get on board, and the trust protocol seems the best vehicle to do that.
John, what has your experience been with the enrollment process for the trust protocol?
Well, it's been a good one. The procedure is pretty straightforward. There's a series of questions that pertain to procedures on your farm and utilization of practices such as cover crops and no-till, and how often you till the ground, and use of resources like water and energy. Do you have flow meters and remote controlled devices on your irrigation rigs? Are you using precision ag? Do you do soil testing? Just a whole series of questions that are relatively easy, straightforward to answer. It doesn't take a lot of detailed information. They're for the most part general questions, and the ones that do take detailed information, it's information that we have readily accessible. We use a program called Granular that and cell phones that we send work orders to our employees, and they click on it when it's done, and it all goes back to the computer. So it's all right there in the computer, and we pull it up by field and look at our crop or whatever, and so we have the information. But whether you're doing something like that or you're using the spreadsheets or just handwritten notes, most farmers keep pretty good records of what their procedures are, and that's what it's trying to get at. It's trying to develop a overall look of your environmental and footprint of your use of these primary resources that you discussed.
Well, great. So how was the field assessment portion of the enrollment?
You know, we had a little bit of difficulty when we went to select a certain percentage of our farm and give detailed information on a couple of fields and downloading the maps, and we had some technical glitches, and we made the mistake of struggling with it for about an hour before we picked the phone up and called the helpline, and within 5 minutes we had it all ironed out and we were moving on. So except for that, our reluctance to use a helpline, it was a fairly seamless and quick process. I would strongly recommend that if a producer encounters anything that's confusing or not clear, they simply call the helpline. There's a young man that's dedicated with the council. That's his job, is overseeing this trust protocol, and he'll walk you through it pretty quick. Their objective is to make it as seamless and easy as possible to participate.
That's great. That's great. Well, do you have any final words for any growers that are maybe watching and might be on the fence about joining?
I think it's yes, I think that it's definitely something that we all need to participate in. There, a large percentage of major companies now are requiring sustainability verified cotton, and the day is going to come when the merchants that are calling to buy your cotton are not going to be interested, or they're going to be paying you less. And whether they pay you more or not, I don't know, but by default they're going to pay you less if it's not sustainable, because they're going to have a hard time marketing it. So I think it's definitely the way to go. It's something we need to do, and it tells the story of what we're doing, which we're not very good at. We are focused on getting the crops in, getting the crops out, and we don't take the time to tell people what we're doing. And this provides a picture of what the U.S. cotton farmer is doing, and it's a good one.
Great. Yeah, I agree with you. I think the storytelling piece is one of the most important. It's getting our story out there, and so people can see what actually is going on and the data behind it.
Well, I agree with you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, John, and thank you for your leadership in sustainable cotton production.
Well, again, it's just the way we farm, and like so many other farmers.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me at my contact information here, or visit trustuscotton.org. There's a plethora of resources available, and like John mentioned, there is a helpline that you can call if you're having issues with the enrollment process. So have a great 2021 growing season. Thanks.